Characteristics of living organisms. For our starter, what characteristics do you think scientists look at when classifying organisms? Scientists look for characteristics such as, is the cell prokaryotic, where it lacks a nucleus and the DNA is free floating? Is the cell eukaryotic, where it has a nucleus and the DNA is contained in a membrane bound organelle with other membrane bound organelles? Is the cell multicellular, made up of more than one cell? Is the organism unicellular, just one cell? How does the organism reproduce? Does it reproduce sexually with two different parents and diverse offspring? Or does the organism reproduce asexually through one parent where the offspring are identical? And then scientists look at characteristics such as, how does the organism eat? Is it autotrophic, where it makes its own food like a plant? Or is it heterotrophic and it has to absorb its energy or get its energy by eating other organisms? So, using those characteristics, scientists classify organisms. There's a new three domain system where our domain bacteria consists of prokaryotic cells, our domain archaea persists of prokaryote cells, and then our domain eukarya consists of eukaryotic cells. What is taxonomy? So you can click here on this hyperlink to watch a short video on what taxonomy is. It's the science of classifying and naming organisms. Taxonomist is a scientist who classify or names organisms. The following slides are going to review the characteristics of each of the three domains and six kingdoms. You can click here for another video on the three domains, bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. So all living things are classified. We look at characteristics. Is the cell prokaryotic with no nucleus? Or is the cell eukaryotic, where it has a nucleus and contains that DNA? So from prokaryote cells, remember there's domain bacteria, where you have the kingdom Eubacteria, the type of bacteria that could make us sick. And prokaryotic cells also consist of the domain archaea, and these are your ancient bacteria, and they have the kingdom Archaeobacteria. If the organism has eukaryotic cells, then it belongs to the domain Eukarya, and inside the domain Eukarya, we have the kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia, and kingdom Protista. So you have three domains and you have six kingdoms. So here is a nice visual of that concept map from above. So all living things are categorized into domains, which are the broadest group. We have domain bacteria, domain archaea, and domain eukarya. Then those domains are further broken down into kingdoms. Okay, so again, domain bacteria, you have kingdom Eubacteria. Domain archaea, you have kingdom Archaeobacteria. Domain eukarya, there are kingdom Protista, kingdom Animalia, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Fungi. Now we're going to talk about each kingdom. So in domain archaea, this is the kingdom Archaeobacteria. So these bacteria are prokaryotic cells. They lack a nucleus. They're unicellular, meaning they're single-celled. They're autotrophic, some where they can make their own food, and some are heterotrophic, where they have to eat other organisms to get their energy. You can play this video on Archaeobacteria to see some examples. They reproduce asexually and they live in extreme environments, high salinity, where you have a lot of salt, low oxygen concentration, high temperatures. They live in the guts of grazing herbivores like cows, and many live in oceans. In domain bacteria, there is the kingdom Eubacteria. These are prokaryotic cells. They lack a nucleus. They're unicellular, single-celled. Some are autotrophic, some are heterotrophic. They reproduce sexually. They're used in food production, oil spill cleanup, sewage treatment plants. Decomposers break down dead organisms. Some cause disease like strep throat, food poisoning, etc. Domain Eukarya, kingdom Protista. Eukaryotes have a nucleus. Most are unicellular, some are multicellular, some are autotrophic, some are heterotrophic. Reproduction can be asexual or sexual. Some examples are the amoeba, the paramecium, algae, diatoms, and many more. They're mostly aquatic, living in water. Domain Eukarya, there is the kingdom Plantae. Eukaryotes have a nucleus. They're multicellular, autotrophic. They make their own food. They can reproduce sexually and asexually. Let's see examples: trees, grass, mosses, ferns, cactus. So that is the kingdom plant. Domain Eukarya, kingdom Fungi. These are eukaryotic cells. They have a nucleus. Some are unicellular, most multicellular, heterotrophic, where they obtain their energy through dead decaying organisms. These are not plants. They do have a cell wall, but they lack chloroplasts. So they cannot make their own food like plants. So they are in their own kingdom. So you have kingdom Plantae and kingdom Fungi. Some examples are mold, mushrooms, and yeasts, and you can play that video to see some different fungi growing. Domain Eukarya, this is the kingdom Animalia. Eukaryotic cells, they have a nucleus, multicellular, heterotrophic, eating other organisms to get their energy, mostly reproduce sexually, but some asexually. Examples: lizards, grasshoppers, spiders, dogs, humans, worms, clams, fish, etc. Practice question: an organism is eukaryotic, multicellular, heterotrophic. In which kingdom would you place this organism? Since it's eukaryotic, it has a nucleus. Multicellular, it gets its food eating other organisms. This would be the animal kingdom. Here you have a drag and drop to label your domains. So I can do that with you. So let me exit out. And so these are your three domains, and we're going to look at their characteristics. So Archaeobacteria, or Archaea, domain Archaea, this is where you have the prokaryotic cell. They lack a nucleus. So we would say no nucleus is present. We could say they're both unicellular or multicellular, hetero or autotrophic. They could be both. Asexual or sexual, these guys reproduce asexually, and their environments are extreme. They can be really hot, high salinity, really cold. Then if we go into the domain bacteria, this is where you have prokaryotic cells. They have no nucleus. Okay, and we can say they are unicellular. They could be both heterotrophic or autotrophic. They reproduce asexually, and they could live on both water and land. Then lastly, in domain eukarya, where we belong, these are eukaryotic cells because they have a nucleus. Okay, and they could be both multicellular and unicellular. Let's put unicellular up here with Archaeobacteria, one cell. And then they could be both autotrophic or heterotrophic. They can reproduce either way, and they could be found on land and water. So really you want to think of the Archaea domain and domain bacteria as unicellular organisms. Okay, and then you can check over your answers by looking at this chart. Well, I hope you enjoyed your lesson today.